So where we live, during the summer months, there's usually a fire restriction in place. But we also like to go camping. But that fire restriction means that we can't have a wood campfire, or we can't even use charcoal, even if it's in a developed campground with a fire ring and everything like that. However, you can use a propane appliance that has a shutoff valve. So building a propane fire pit allows you to bring a campfire with you, have something to roast marshmallows, enjoy some s'mores with, sit around and chat, and we'll go through how we made my propane fire barrel. Hey YouTube, JR here. I'm going to take you through the steps of using some old abandoned barbecue hardware to make yourself a fire barrel. What you're really after is you're after this part, which is the regulator. This screws into the propane tank and drops it down to a manageable PSI. The other part you need is also, I'm actually reusing a burner. This is the burner it was a side burner. So there was the cooking burners, and then over on the side for a pot of baked beans or something, there's a side burner. And it has all these orifices up top for the burner. We're actually going to take this off. So this is what we're left with. So that jet goes in this end. It sucks in air on either side of this, mixes the air and the fuel, and then comes out the top and is able to be burned. For the fire pit itself, I'm using a smaller tank, similar to this one. It's a refrigerant tank so taking a tank like this, I'm going to cut it in half so you're left with two halves, and then what I did is this is going to be the bottom, which was actually the top of the tank, so I actually cut the top off that had the handles on it, so it's gone, and then the bottom is now actually going to be the top. We're going to flip it upside down. It's going to sit like that. Now what I did is I cut out the bottom and modified it so that our burner over here, and it actually slips right in like this. It'll hold that burner in place. And then I also notched out that bottom piece so that everything fits in just like that. Okay? Now the thing that I didn't like about this existing valve is that it's supposed to go right in there in our burner, but I didn't want the knob and everything right here by the fire. So I kind of came up with an alternative plan. I took that off of the regulator. This particular regulator, you're able to unscrew these outlets. Some of them you can't, so some of them you have to just make do with what you have. This particular one I was able to unscrew. I was able to use a 1/4-inch ball valve and then a 1/4-inch barb and go to some pipe or some tubing. So that'll screw into our propane tank and then go out. Now at the other end you still need, remember on this valve it had a little jet? You still need that, because if you have too much flow coming out of this propane tank, there's an internal regulator that's a overflow protection or something. If it senses too much gas is coming out, it's going to clamp off and not allow any extra fuel to come out. So you actually do need to reduce the size. So what I did is the other end of this tube goes into a barb, an elbow through this 1/4-inch pipe to a coupler, and then I kind of jimmy rigged this. That's a welding tip that I drilled out and then soldered into a quick connect brass fitting for an air compressor, and it works perfectly. I drilled that out to maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little less. It was the biggest size I could drill it out to and be able to flip this on full blast without triggering the safety mechanism in the propane tank. So then that sits right in there. I'll have a piece of wire tied on to keep it in there, but then you can take it off to throw it in the trunk to go camping. Put it in there, put the wire on, but then I have about 15 feet or so of tubing, so my tank can sit about 15 feet away. So let's go ahead and test this real quick. I have the regulator screwed on to my tank. And my tank open all the way. I have my valve, my ball valve off. I have my jet sitting in there and then wired in so that it's nice and straight with it. I'm gonna turn on my burner. Look at that. So I can use my ball valve and turn it down nice and low. I have just a nice little accent fire. Or you can really crank this up. It's a little breezy today. Oh man, you could feel the heat coming off of it too. Here you go. Turn it off, turns right off. Nice little setup there. So let's go through all the parts that I used in this. Obviously I have my propane tank. I have an old propane regulator. I used a 1/4 inch ball valve and then a 1/4 inch barb and then some 1/4 inch inner diameter tubing. That goes over here to another 1/4 inch barb, into a 1/4 inch elbow, 1/4 inch nipple, a coupler that goes to that quick connect fitting with my homemade jet in it, which then goes into the burner from the barbecue, and then the whatever you decide to use for your burn barrel itself. Now remember, this jet, if it's too big, your propane tank will shut off automatically, and it'll just be frustrating. If it's if your outlet, if you're making a burner, you have to make sure there's enough openings so that it doesn't create back pressure. If the amount of gas you're pumping into it can't escape and burn, it'll back up and it could cause a leak out these holes, and you get gas coming out these holes. And then if you have a bunch of gas floating around in the air and an ignition source, you can have an explosion, and it could be a little bit dangerous for you.